A specific immune response singles out one particular agent that can harm us and responds to that. For example, if we catch a certain virus, our specific immune system will destroy that particular virus. Specific immune responses in our body are carried out by two main types of cells. One type are called B lymphocytes, or simply B cells. And another type are called T lymphocytes, or simply T cells. B cells and T cells are both types of white blood cells. Here we'll introduce you to B cells and what they do. B cells are made in the bone marrow and circulate in both the lymphatic system and the bloodstream. The lymphatic system is a system of vessels which carries a fluid called lymph around the body. The lymphatic system plays a very important role in immunity. Many B cells are found here. The circulatory system is just another name for our bloodstream. B cells also circulate through the bloodstream to all parts of the body. They can quickly be carried to places they are needed. An antigen is defined as any substance that causes an immune response in the body. Antigens can be such things as toxic chemicals, bacteria, viruses, pollen, or mold. These diagrams can represent antigens that have made their way into our body. These little red marks represent special molecules antigens have on their surface. These can be called markers. Each type of antigen has its own specific markers, which can be used for identification. All of the antigens shown here are the same type, so they have identical little red markers shown on them. Here is a B cell. The surface of B cells has Y-shaped molecules attached to it. These are called antibodies. These antibodies are attached to the cell's outer membrane. As we'll see, free antibodies that are not attached can also exist. On the ends of these antibodies there are special receptors. Our bodies produce thousands of different varieties of B cells. Each variety has its own special receptors. This particular B cell has receptors that will bind to the molecules on the surface of this antigen. No other type B cell will have receptors that will bind to this particular antigen. We can watch our B cell binding to these antigens. When it is connected to these antigens, this B cell is ready to be activated. Chemical signals are sent to this B cell from other cells called T cells. You'll learn more about T cells in another video. Being connected to antigens and receiving these signals from T cells stimulates this B cell to make many clones, or identical copies of itself. Here are a couple of those copies. Some of the copies that are made become factories which can produce thousands of free antibodies. Watch as this cell keeps on producing these Y-shaped antibodies. Notice these antibodies are free to move around at this point. They can, however, bind to molecules on the surface of an antigen they are matched to. Watch as these three antibodies bind to this antigen. After this B cell has produced enough antibodies, it will self-destruct. This antigen now has antibodies sticking to it. These can disable it from doing harm in our body. They also identify it as something that can be attacked by other white blood cells. Here is a macrophage that comes along and destroys this structure. Antibodies can also do other things with antigens. Here is an antibody and two antigens. This single antibody can connect to both of these antigens. So this antibody has clumped two of these antigens together. What is formed is quite a large structure. This structure is too large to pass through cell membranes, so the antigen is now unable to infect new cells. It is also identified as being able to be attacked and destroyed by other white blood cells. Most of these particular B cells that were made will self-destruct once the immune response is over and the antigens have been destroyed. However, a few B cells of this variety will remain in the body for a long time. These are called memory B cells. So if that same antigen ever enters our body again at a later time, we already have some B cells that have just the right receptors to attach to it and disable it before it does any harm. As we are exposed to more types of antigens, our body responds with B cells that will bind to them, and with the help of T cells, make many copies of themselves. Some of these copies become factory cells which produce antibodies. These antibodies disable the antigens and identify them for attack. And some copies of these B cells will remain in the body and act as what are called memory B cells. These will increase the body's immunity to future attacks by the same antigen. If the same antigen enters our body at a future time, these memory B cells will recognize it and disable it before it can do much harm. If you like, you could pause the video, take a screenshot of this, and copy it to study from.